Hey there, welcome back. In the previous video, we implemented the ability to stop hovering over a weapon, causing its widget to disappear. We also took care of the proximity issue, where if you're not close enough, then the widget will also disappear as soon as you exit out of the area sphere. Now, in this video, we'd like to bind some of the properties on the widget, and we'll start with the name of the item. So here you'll see that our widget says submachine gun. And the way we've implemented this, it's basically hard-coded in the widget blueprint. No matter what item that we put this pickup widget on, it will always only ever say submachine gun. So we need to bind this to a variable on the item. So we're going to do that in this video. So we're back here in item.h, and I'm going to scroll down to the private variables section, and I'm going to add a new private variable. And this variable is going to be an f string, and it's going to be the item name. So I'm going to call it item name. Now I'd like this to be edit anywhere blueprint read only. So I'm going to copy this uProperty from area sphere, and I'm going to add that to item name. Now item name can have a comment here, and this will be the name which appears on the pickup widget. Now we can give this a default value in the constructor. So let's go to item.cpp, and let's go ahead and give this a initialization here. So we'll say item name, and we'll initialize it with the value of f string initialized to default. So we've added an item name variable, we've initialized it to default, and now we can compile this. Okay, we're back here in the editor, and I'm going to open up pickup widget BP, and here in pickup widget BP, I'm going to click right here on the text. We'll see in the hierarchy that item name text gets highlighted, so we're selecting item name text. Now in the details panel under content, there's a text field, and that's where we entered submachine gun. That's where we hard-coded those characters into the widget. But we're going to instead bind this so that we get data to feed this text field rather than just what we enter in here. So let's click bind and create binding. And now we've created a binding function that will determine the text set for that field in our widget blueprint. So we need the information from the item class that this widget will be added to. So first we can add a new variable, and we can call this item reference. And we can change the type of this variable to item, and we can select the item object type. So this is a variable of type item, and that's the actual item C++ class. Now this is just an empty variable. It doesn't have an actual reference to any particular item. So we need to actually set this item reference somehow. So we're going to open base weapon BP, open full blueprint editor, and here in begin play, we can set that item property on our pickup widget. So let's get our pickup widget, drag it in here, and this is a widget component. So what we need to do is cast it to our pickup widget BP class. So we can drag off of this and type get user widget object. So this actually gets the widget object, and this we can cast to pickup widget. So cast to pickup widget BP, and we can hook this up to begin play. Now as pickup widget BP, we can then access the new variable that we created called item reference. So drag off of as pickup widget BP and type item reference, and we can actually get a setter for set item reference. Go ahead and hook up that pin, and for item reference we need a value. And we're going to set the value to this actual class that we're in, base weapon BP. So right click and type self, and we can get a reference to self. This is essentially like the this pointer in C++. In C++, the keyword this is actually a pointer to the class that you're in. And in blueprints, self is a reference to the blueprint that you're in. So I'm going to pass that in. And now here in begin play for the weapon, we're setting that item reference variable to reference this particular weapon that owns the pickup widget. So now in pickup widget, in our binding function, we can actually get that reference and check to see if it's valid. So we're going to use an isValid node. We'll hook that up. And if it's valid, then we simply need to get our item reference and get that item name variable that we added in C++. Now this is of type fstring, and the return node for this binding function takes a text. There's actually a struct called ftext, and in Blueprints it's just called text. But if you drag from the fstring to the text, we get a toText conversion node automatically for us. So now all that's left to do is drag the isValid pin to the return node. And so what this will do is in this binding function, which is called every frame, in the isNotValid case, nothing will happen. But as soon as base weapon BP gets around to setting the item reference in begin play, then isValid will start to fire because this item reference will now have valid data stored in it, and we'll get that name variable from item reference. So compile this and save it. And compile base weapon BP, save that. And let's go back and hit play, and you'll see that as we hover over, our widget shows default, which is the default value we gave to that fstring. And now the beauty about this is that we made that fstring edit anywhere, which means we can change the default here in base weapon for that fstring. So if we go to item properties here, here's item name. We can change this to base weapon and compile that. And it's also editable on instances, so we can select one of these in the world, go to its details panel, and find the item properties. And here in item properties, we have item name. We can change this to say submachine gun. And now if we go ahead and hit play, we'll see that this one says base weapon, which is the name we set on the blueprint. And this one says submachine gun, which is the name we set on the instance. That is thanks to the beauty of Edit Anywhere. So that's going to conclude this video. To summarize, we created a binding on our pickup widget for the text, which created this binding function. In the binding function, we needed to decide what to pass into our return value, so we created an item reference, which is a variable of type item, the item C++ class. Now to set that variable with a valid value, we went into base weapon BP and we set it here in begin play. We got our pickup widget, we used getUserWidgetObject, and then used that to cast a pickup widget BP, which we then used to set item reference with a reference to self, which is the base weapon BP. Now in the next video, we're going to continue binding properties on this widget. And we'll start with this ammo amount represented by a number, because we simply have the number 12 hard-coded, but we'd like to bind that to some data as well. So we'll do that in the next video. See you soon.